hot topic that has me squirming a little bit. I'm like, I'm going to get canceled by all the moms. But um, the title of this is The Importance of Rejecting Your Mother. And I want to talk about this. And I'm not advocating people reject their mother. It is something that happens, it is natural, it's a developmental process. Hopefully, it's happening in early childhood. This process can really get delayed and impaired, and it creates challenges in adulthood. I'm going to outline those, and this when this starts happening, how this is handled is going to either set the child up for health and wellness or shackles. Okay, so this is a really important thing, and so let's dive in. I'm Rachel McLeod. I'm a mental health therapist and an emotional wellness coach. I specialize in complex PTSD recovery and also helping people do the brain work for resolving symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress. And also, so there's a brain process for that, and that process gets stopped or blocked. And this process is not only the process for resolving symptoms of anxiety, depression, traumatic stress, that's what I use it for, but it's also the same process for growth, maturation, mastery. And really mastering your environment, being adaptable, being flexible, your executive functioning is in this process as well. This process gets blocked and stopped, and so we're going to see tons of symptoms show up, and we're going to see absence of executive functioning. We're going to see the absence of maturation, the absence of mastery. And so really my focus is getting this process unblocked and unstopped and moving forward and flowing, because when this is open, the brain is naturally creating health and wellness and resolving symptoms, and we're getting maturation, mastery, and growth, and all the wonderful things. And as a result of that, we'll also have tons of deep communications, connections, collaborations. So that's really what I do. But when I'm working with this, I help people resolve many of the issues that come with complex PTSD. And one of the issues that come with complex PTSD is individuation, becoming an individual. Really important. I'm going to talk a bit about that. I'm not going to dive in here. I'm preventing myself right now. But the other things in complex PTSD is challenges with healthy boundaries. These challenges with healthy boundaries you can see if they're going to show up or not in the interactions with rejecting the mother. And that's why I'm really going to have this video, because I want to show you what all happens in these dynamics, these interactions. If you're a parent, I want you to know this so that you rock these moments when you are being rejected and you set your kid up for health and wellness. And also, if you were not able to reject your mother, you were not able to go through that developmental process, then I'm going to show you what you're looking for and why all these things are showing up in your life and why it goes back to that, and why it can be repaired in those moments. If you can see it from this perspective, your brain can do a ton of healing with it. It's hard for your brain to resolve issues in the present that didn't originate here. But when you go back to the present and back to the past in those situations where it took place, it's much more simple, and it's right there, and your brain is like, oh yeah, I remember that, and we felt like this, and all the emotions start processing and for the first time, because a lot of times when we're little, we don't have the support we need to actually integrate and process the emotions and experiences that we're having. And if we're having them with our mother, the person that's supposed to be really helping our nervous system process and keep it supported and open, if we're having issues with her, who's got our nervous system? Who's helping our nervous system? So it's highly likely that stuff, those challenging interactions with her in early childhood, are not processed, because she would be the one to help with that, and she's not in some of these cases. And so that's fine. We can fix it now. We can repair those things now. We can build that in now and help you move along the developmental processes of individuation. And that's where healthy boundaries come from as well. They're kind of interwoven. Areas where we haven't. Okay, let me back up here a second. So when I'm talking about rejecting the mother, I'm not talking about all or nothing. I'm not saying, hey, go reject your mom right now, get rid of her. That's not what I'm saying. We can't, if we do not if we cannot do the small ones, if we cannot reject our mother's opinion or her preference, if we cannot choose our own opinion, our own perspective, if we can't reject how she, what she wants, and for what we want, if we can't go through that in small things, we will eventually be faced with big decisions. There's not enough adaptability, there's not enough flexibility, right? It to keep a relationship, it will eventually create, you'll basically outgrow the relationship and it will break, or you'll have to stay small in that relationship because it's the only way you can get along with your mother. And this that staying small creates a ton of challenges. I'm going to outline those, and breaking it is a loss. We've lost somebody really important to us. We don't really want that. Neither party wants that, but it's what's going to happen. This is also why I don't like doing this work with teenagers without their parents, because now I'm going to help the child outgrow the hold of the mother or the parents, and then there could be a break, and then the child has to deal with that. No, I want to work with the parents to get them nice and flexible, open that up so that they can hold a bigger container for their kid and help their child individuate well. Okay. Also, this is usually a generational pattern of not being able to reject the parent. And so we're just passing it along. Many parents, when they realize, oh, they're just rejecting my opinion, but they have their own, and when they're able to do this, they make it happen really nicely. If we're not aware of this moment, and we're going to do the programming, and if the programming says you're not allowed to have a different opinion, you're not allowed to think differently, do differently, want differently, you need to be just like me, and you need to make me look good, as a matter of fact. What are you talking about? If I got into that so much, I don't know where I'm at. I play out these scenarios and get lost in them. Okay, but if that's the case, it's just not going to go well. That's all I got for that. I'm just gonna have to pick that trail up in another spot. Okay, so let me fall back into this, and I'll probably end up acting more stuff out. But this is why I take notes. Okay, so so we're not talking about global rejecting the mother, even though a mentally unhealthy parent is stuck in all or nothing reasoning. So if you reject one thing, you reject everything. You've rejected their entire being, right? If you say, no, thank you, I don't want to wear matching outfits today because I'm 15, and they have a meltdown, then it's everything. They've rejected me. They don't want to be like me. And you will know this when you're little by small things. So you will already be patterned and conditioned. I can't have a separate opinion. I can't do something different here. I need to always agree with my mother. I need to align with my mother at all times. Right? So this stuff, that's one of the challenges. That's a mental illness thing. That's the processor is not working on mom very well, and we can't get that open. So you're stuck. Either you have to accept the idea that you're rejecting her, or you have to just not do it at all so that it doesn't become an issue. Right? You see how trapping that is? And this is happening over and over in small ways or big ways all throughout early childhood. So by the time people are teenagers, they're not even looking in their inner world anymore. What do I like? What do I know? What do I feel? And so that disconnection happened early. Mom said, you'll, she didn't say this, she might have, but protecting my feelings and my ego and my needs and my wants and my sense of self is more important than what you've got going on. And so children are forced to prioritize protecting mom over their own needs and their own sense of self. Now, this also happens with fathers, but I see it the most common with the mom. And so, this principle applies everywhere, but I want to show you something in a very specific way. And typically mom has the most touches, or the female caregiver. Okay. So if mom is able to see you're different, like she likes pink and I like blue, and that's cool, and mom thinks this is awesome and wonderful. This is good. This is where we are celebrating a child's individuality, right? And the child said, no, I don't want to wear pink. They rejected something from the mother or something that the mother identifies with, and they said, I want my own blue thing. And so this is a great dynamic. And then now we're collaborating. Now we're making bracelets with mom's pink thread and the baby's blue thread, right? And now we're weaving, we're synergizing here, right? This is healthy. This is, you can be a separate person and we can thrive. Not only can we thrive, but we can elevate this. We can create some synergy here. That's much different than what can happen often in these interactions is I don't want pink, I want blue. And now all of a sudden mom is devastated. Maybe mom is she's shutting down. She's not having as much fun in the interaction. Maybe mom starts crying. Maybe mom starts shaming you. Why wouldn't you want blue? Why wouldn't you want pink? Blue is a boy color. What's wrong with you? Why do you like blue? Right? Maybe mom is sitting here and she's bullying you over it. Oh, she likes blue. Blue, blue, blue. Everything's blue, right? And mom maybe becomes your first bully, right? Everyone that has bullying challenges that I've ever worked with in school, one of their parents was their first bully. And so they were introduced to the bully process and haven't resolved it yet. Do you see that this moment where the child is rejecting what mom does and has her own is huge? And this is an important developmental milestone. This is where children are learning tons of things. Can I be an individual and keep my mother at the same time? Biologically, we need to keep the mother. And if I can't do that, I'm getting rid of myself so I can keep the mother. And I will stay in that dynamic for a long time, regardless of how toxic it is. And then when I grow up, do I have more practice protecting my mother or being an individual? Right? I have more practice protecting my mother. So the programming on being who I am is actually underdeveloped because it hasn't been practiced enough. And so in recovering here, we want to guide the brain to start wiring in all the wiring and programming for being a self. Right? This is a lot of the underlying practices in my program. This is why I have the exercises in there that I have in there. Is because we need to start activating the brain to wire in the self and to practice being the self and being in response to the self. In this dynamic where I have rejected what my mother wants, do you see? Like I really don't know my preferences anymore. I don't know. I don't. I'm not. We're not wiring. We're not looking in. We are looking out. And so that looking out is just continuing, right? So we're undeveloped. We need to start looking in again, right? So, and in these moments, mom's also saying you don't get to be a separate person, right? So another concept here is mom is blocking the door to asserting the self. Now, I teach a principle of we're going to be one of five things. Just energy flows. You can't stop it from flowing. It's going to flow. If the door to being assertive is blocked, the energy can't flow in there. So it's going to go into one of these other ones. And one of these other ones can be passive. You're going to then be passive, passive aggressive, aggressive, or manipulative. I don't find any shame in these things. They just tell us that the door to being assertive is blocked. We need to get in there and get that open. Why can't you be assertive here? Right? And there's tons of reasons I ask that question. I don't always ask it so directly, but you can hear it all the time. And so we want to get that open. Well, I'm not allowed to have a difference of opinion. I'm worried how they're going to react. This is a lot of stuff from early childhood. And it was because I asserted myself, which was different than the mother or the father or the caregiver, and they shut down, they withdrew, they stopped talking to me, they stonewalled me, they rejected me, they punished me, right? All these things. So this is blocked. And by the time we're adults, people don't realize that this is actually early childhood programming, why that's closed. And so they're practicing not being passive here, but you can't fight the way the wiring is. And so really if we just hop back in here for a little bit and work on these things, we want to open up, we want to put our brain back in there. Like, hey, this is where the problem started. We put the brain back there and we open the processor, right? And I have tons of videos about how to manually shift your brain out of fight or flight and into processing mode. We want to manually operate that over and over again, because by the time, because we didn't get enough practice being regulated and supported to make this shift open, then it's just our brain isn't great at it. Okay. And so we need to support it right now because we have tons of symptoms we need to resolve, and we got things to build and rewire. We got things to do. So go, go, go. Support this, send those safety signals so that that part of the brain get that open. We want it in processing. As a matter of fact, I don't do any of this work with somebody who cannot switch their processor. That's why I'm handing them interventions. And that's why I have a free program called Interventions for Inner World Transformation. This is where I hand you off my 3 favorite interventions and I teach you how to do them, and you play with them and see what happens. See which ones work for you. If it doesn't work for you, great. Try another one, but you need one. And your brain will respond to one, right? It really will. So you really want to find one that's consistent and that it can shift here, because we need to help it, your mind body system. We need to help it do what the awesome, amazing rewiring and healing work it can do. It knows this is not good. It doesn't know yet, but once this processor gets open, it's figuring things out. It's like, oh, this is not good for us, and we should change this, and let's rewire that. And love equals aligning with them and having no self. Oh, wait, that doesn't work. Let's put this over. Love equals I get to be myself. You get to be yourself. We want the brain to wire that, not just keep it at a conscious or an intellectual level. We need to actually get in and do brain work. We need to get the brain working on it. Okay. So oftentimes unconsciously, when parents are being rejected, this is not their fault necessarily. This is their responsibility to handle well and maturely and skillfully. And so if this is happening to you, which this happens to me, then you support yourself so that you can get into a position where you could support your child to be an individual. But a lot of times when this, often enough, if you're a parent and this does not happen to you, I don't even know who you are. I don't know how that happened, because it doesn't happen for me. But if a child chooses something if my child chooses something I'm not comfortable with, I might feel threatened. Right? I might feel like I'm in survival mode. You might feel threatened, right? We're talking about the color blue and pink, right? Those are little issues. When we talk about differences in sexual preferences, differences in who they like, friendships, differences in sports and activities, differences in how they want to study, how they learn things, right? These things can be massively triggering to us, and we can feel very threatened. And so we'll go into a survival state. But it's really important that we meet this with a whole brain state, regulated, calm, processing, learning, curious, explore this with our children, be able to be in a neurological position to explore who our children are, even if that means they're rejecting our way of doing things, right? Even if we feel like they're rejecting who we are, which is not usually the case. They're usually just expressing themselves and trying to be themselves, who they are, right? So we want to look out for that. That's a pack thing. That's because we're designed to be in a pack. That's because brains like everything to be the same. Those games where you're playing that the matching things, like these four of these match and one doesn't. Which one is it? It's like, oh my God, don't let that be me. No, yeah, it's often you, but neurologically we're afraid if we're different that we're not going to be part of the pack. Different means we're not part of the pack, and so it's threatening to us. And so on a primal level, this is not a conscious level, this is not a logical level, it just is part of our design. And so, but we have these fantastic prefrontal cortexes that if we can get out of survival mode and into a regulated state, that part of the brain will turn on and say, oh, this could be really great. I don't know how, but let's explore it, right? Okay, so in these moments with the child asserting the self and rejecting the mother, I'm using a triggering phrase because I like to do that sometimes, and most of the times I don't, but There are times I like to, because I like you to feel what that feels like. And that's when it's safe enough. So if the mother can, in these interactions, we're going to watch the mother either dominate the child, suppress the child, or accept the child, and any of the flavors around that. But those are three big ones to watch for. And if you can catch yourself in this too. Are you dominating your child? Are you suppressing your child? Or are you accepting your child? Right? Do you feel safe enough? And can you cooperate with who your child is and with your child? Okay. This is how people end up being emotional caretakers. This is one of the ways. This is one of the ways people end up being either, if this didn't go well, people end up being rebellious and defiant. A lot of clients come to me because they're like, hey, I'm a grown up, but I'm acting like a rebellious teenager. And a lot of times this is it. This is they weren't able to individuate, and they know it, and they're trying to now. I could make a whole video on that. It's challenging because you actually have to go through the developmental milestone right now, and that can mean like you're in your house stamping your foot, right? I set people up with exercises for this when we've identified that this is the issue, so that they can go through this process in their journal, in a way that isn't splashing it all over their family. Right? Because if this had happened healthily, it would have happened early childhood. Our family would have never had to be touched by it. Now we want to minimize, we want you to go through your process, but we don't want it thrown all over your family, even though it's going to some degree, but we want to minimize that because it will be nicer for everybody, yourself included. And so we set up exercises where we can get your brain to go through this process and finish it and keep growing and maturing, so that you can come out of teenage mode and be the adult you are. So also this teaches us in early childhood to organize our priorities, right? So we have an organizational flow of our priorities in our subconscious programming. And if this moment doesn't go right with your mom, then your priority is protecting mom and then my own needs. Right? If you're in a rebellious stage, you're my own needs, screw mom, right? But really, we can have them together. We can do both. We can prioritize them nuancely. I can have my needs and support mom's needs at the same time, or I can have my needs. I'm going to trust mom. I'm going to allow my mom to support her own needs. She's really good at that anyway. There's a ton of combinations that can be, and we want to see the brain do them all. We don't want it stuck in just mom, me, or me, mom. That sucks. That's the absence of adaptability and flexibility. And that's a sign that our processor is not processing this. We're not in flow working on this, right? It's not getting evaluated and rewired. And we want to just open that process like, hey brain, look at this thing that's stuck. Have you seen this? Right? And they haven't until the processor opens, right? And that's a weird thing. Like, how does my prefrontal cortex not even see this yet? It didn't get there in the form that it needed to get there. So I have videos on that, and I have a new way of explaining that I think is so fun, but I'm going to wrap this video up, so I'm not going to do it right now, but I'll do it in another one. So, when our priorities are off, we also have challenges with inner conflict and warring needs. And this makes us susceptible to toxic dynamics in adulthood. This makes us open to narcissists. This makes us open to abusers. This makes us open because those setups are looking for people that their programming gets jammed and they freeze. And so when the brain can't put it can't resolve our inner conflicts, it's like I can't. And then it's like there's a freeze in there, and the brain doesn't know what to do. So you're not likely going to do something that represents yourself. And so, but in that freeze moment, someone can come along and tell you what to do. And you're like, oh, okay, well, why not? I don't have clarity on the issue. And we can end up being wrapped up into unhealthy relationship dynamics because we came from one, right? But also our system can't create enough inner resolution to do that. And this brain process is also the process for the brain to resolve internal conflict. So people who have a lot of inner conflict, who have a lot of split either or, this or that, I don't know, two things, that their processing is impaired, and we want to get that running. So, but also not being able to reject the mom puts you in that place automatically, because you have conflict between, do I protect my mom or do I be myself? Do it. So it's an early one and it's deep. So having said that, I encourage you to enroll in my free program, Inner World Transformation, Interventions for Inner World Transformation. Grab those interventions, try them out, see what you think. If you find ones that work for you, you are ready to go. And I invite you at that point to take a look at my program, Inner World Transformation. It's the roadmap I use to guide people through resolving these types of issues, and it's all the symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress. And so that we are experiencing. So, and it's very thorough. It's very, I teach you how to canvas the inner world, help your system repair and get you rewiring and thriving. So it's pretty fun and powerful. Lots of people say, after I already feel better, and it's just been a week. So it's an 8-week program, and it's very transformational because we're working with this processor and getting it up and running. So thanks for joining me. I'll see you around. Take care. Bye.